So it's been a couple of days. Tennessee still beat Virginia, still one-handedly, but now that the dust is settled, what does Josh Heupel think about his team's season-opening victory? What does he think about his quarterback, Joe Milton? And how can Tennessee improve in a week where the competition's not going to be pretty fierce? I said that, not him. That and a whole lot more, your mailbag questions. It's your Tuesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday, everybody. This is Locked On Vols. It is your team every single day. Shout out every dayers. Appreciate you for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen. You can always find me at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. All right, here on YouTube, you can subscribe and follow the show each and every single day. And, of course, wherever you find your podcast. Shout out Bird Dogs. It's brought to you by Bird Dogs this episode. birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. Enter that promo code LockedOnCollege for a free water bottle with any purchase. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you that. Got a fun show coming up. What Josh Heupel said. We're going to play some clips. You're going to hear from Josh Heupel. If you're on YouTube, you're going to see Josh Heupel, what he had to say about Joe Milton, the running backs, the offensive line, D. Williams. What did Ramel Keaton, what did Brew McCoy have to say about Ramel Keaton's drop? A lot of good stuff here and how they can improve from one week to the next. Coming up with Austin Peay in the home opener Saturday at 5. Mailbag questions the rest of the show. Plus, Tennessee going to unveil a new alternate uniform, a little smoky grays, but throwback edition. I'll show some more photos later on, but that's a little bit of a teaser. Photos sent out by the University of Tennessee on Monday morning rather. And of course, it's to pay homage to Condrez Holloway, 51st anniversary of him breaking the color barrier in the SEC, first black starting quarterback in the Southeastern Conference, and so a lot to celebrate. That'll be on Saturday as well. Let's get to Josh Heupel. What did he have to say about his current quarterback, and that being Joe Milton? A short clip here, but wanted you to hear from Josh Heupel about the progression for Joe Milton, his eyes, how did he work, how did he play? This is Josh Heupel on his quarterback, Joe Milton.
Joe, I thought it during the course of the ball game on the video too. I thought his decision making, where his eyes were at, was really solid throughout the course of the football game.
Yeah, Joe Milton, SEC co-offensive player of the week. 4 total touchdowns, threw for 200 yards, completed 70% of his passes, a couple of 1-yard rushing touchdowns, touchdown passes to Dylan Sampson and Jacob Warren there in the second half. So an all-around a pretty solid day. Room for improvement, as we talked about on yesterday's show. Of course, Ramel Keaton had a drop. That would have been 6. I think Dante Thornton didn't run the correct route, if you will, in the end zone. Joe Milton threw one into triple coverage where the safety should have picked it off to Brew McCoy. And then there was a series of 3 straight bad passes. I think one of those might have got tipped in the second quarter. So again, it wasn't perfect. There's plenty of room to grow, but overall, I thought Joe Milton was really solid, and I think Josh Heupel thinks so too, but knows there's room to get after it. Running backs, huge plus for Tennessee. And how about the luxury to have 3 guys ready to roll at the drop of a hat? Jaylen Wright over 100 yards rushing, Jabari Small averaging over 5 yards to carry, Dylan Sampson 4 total touchdowns. And according to Josh Heupel, these guys are their biggest fans.
Yeah, very selfless group. They want to be successful individually, but I don't think there's anybody more happy about the success of the guy that's on the field than the guys that are on the sideline during the moment of that success. And at the end of the day, that group understands that the strength of the position can't be one guy. They pull hard for each other. They're great competitors on the practice field. They push each other in the meeting room. And, I think like all of our position groups, they care about the people inside of that room.
All right, so that's on the running back, and they had a great game, and I expect Tennessee's running game, as I said all offseason, to be one of the best running back rooms in the Southeastern Conference, be one of the better parts of this football team. Are you going to rush for nearly 300 yards a game? No, you will not, but boy, off to a great start. And, those guys can't go anywhere without the hard work, sweat, and determination of those guys in front of them. The offensive line. You guys know it. I hate offensive line rotations, but Tennessee played 8 guys for over 20 snaps on the offensive line. Played a whole lot of guys, 13 total, I believe. Those guys were putting it up and putting it down. They were working. And Josh Heupel was asked about what he thought about the offensive line as the game went on, and then towards the end, specifically about the centers. Of course, Cooper Mays is out right now. We'll track his progress over the week and see if he'll be ready, if that's this week, next week, or sometime beyond. But until then, it is Cooper Mays out, but it's Ollie Lane and Dane Davis in its center. Josh Heupel in the second part of this question asked about those two guys specifically, but a lot of offensive line talk here and a lot of good things to say from the Virginia game from head coach Josh Heupel.
Yeah, I thought for the moving parts that we had, the different guys that played at center, the communication, getting all 5 guys on the same page as far as where our targets were that can be in the run game and in the pass protections, they did a really solid job. There's some things that all 5 and really all the guys that played, you're looking at 8 guys that played a ton of snaps. I think maybe 13 that played during the course of the ball game. There's a lot of things that they got to clean up to, which is anticipated as you go from week 1 to week 2. But all in all, really solid performance by those guys. Ollie, smart, cares about this program, cares about his teammates. He's a great teammate, and this offseason continued to change his body. I thought he had his best offseason. That's why I think he's playing his best football right now since we've been here. And he's smart, moving from guard to center. It's different, yeah, but he's gotten consistent reps at the center position throughout our tenure here. He's done a really nice job. And Dane didn't take reps there until Coop went down. Just as we looked at things, it felt like he had an opportunity. We didn't know if he'd handle it well, how he would respond in there. He's really smart. He can communicate at a really high level. We knew that from his time at tackle. It's been really pretty seamless for him in the middle of it. He's done a great job and really natural there.
So a lot of good stuff there about the offensive line from Josh Heupel. And again, I'm curious, while Cooper Mays is out, kind of what the best 5 is up there, because you don't need to be rotating 5 or 8 guys in when you go to Florida. You just don't. And so my question is, will you rotate with a purpose this week? It's Tennessee versus Tennessee. I mean, again, you never want to undervalue an opponent or anything, but I tried to look up the line Monday afternoon. It's not even available at FanDuel right now. I mean, Tennessee should win this game by 45 plus. It is what it is. So can you rotate with a purpose? Potentially, can you get Dane Davis at center, Ollie Lane at guard, and is that your best 5 for the time being? I don't know. We'll see. I thought Dane Davis looked pretty good at center, and of course Ollie Lane as well. I want you guys to hear one more thing today. This is from Brew McCoy. Was asked about Ramel Keaton, his drop, and kind of how you go about that. Do you motivate him? Do you pat him on the back and say, hey, get him next time? Ramel Keaton as a person, the receiver, some good stuff here from a wide receiver, Brew McCoy. Give this a listen.
Well, I mean, I've watched Ramel probably catch 100 deep balls every single day after practice in his free time. That's it's a contested catch is almost easier. When you're running wide open down the field in front of a packed stadium and you can think about it, it's like one of the hardest catches you can possibly make. You don't really say anything. Like, he's hard enough on himself, and we know that he'll make that play, 9 times out of 10, in my opinion.
You guys know, if you watch and listen to us here on Locked On Vols, I was, I didn't believe in Ramel Keaton last year. He was a senior at the time, didn't really contribute a whole lot after being a highly rated 4-star prospect, I believe, from Alpharetta, Georgia. I have to look that up. But anyway, I didn't think that he would contribute last year. And I was saying, well, hey, should you move? Oh, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name right now. He transferred out to Wake Forest. Walker Merrill to the outside and have him potentially be ready to come in if one of those guys go down. But no, they went with Ramel Keaton, and he came up in a huge way, and he just continued to work and make plays and work, and he was just always there. And so I'm a huge Ramel Keaton fan. I am, and he's a good receiver. And he dropped that wide open pass, would have been 6 easily. And I thought it was interesting there from Brew McCoy saying those are sometimes harder to catch than a contested catch. And I found that really, really interesting. But I would have no issues, no worries about Ramel Keaton. He is, again, in my opinion, still the all-around better option at wide receiver than, all of Tennessee's options at wide receiver. And that's saying an awful lot because Tennessee is loaded at that position. Hey, when we come back, we'll take a look at those uniforms at the University of Tennessee is going to don on Saturday. Paying tribute to Condredge Holloway, so looking forward to that. And we'll get into your mailbag questions, all that coming up when we return right here on Locked On Vols. Hey, I want to tell you about our friends over at Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, great company, and they're for guys like you and I, really. And speaking to the men here, they truly kind of give you a sculpted look by being a little slimmer through the thigh and really kind of showing off the goods, if you know what I'm saying. Designed to fit you better. That's at Bird Dogs. The shorts, they do the exact same thing as what Lululemon does, but the difference is regular shorts have these strict restricting cotton, okay? But Bird Dogs fixed that issue with cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but it stretches in order to give you a slimmer fit, all without sacrificing movement. Also, the anti-stink sweat wicking fabric. It is hot here in East Tennessee, guys. You know what I'm saying? That will keep you cool and dry all day long in Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, they're functional for any occasion. Again, I talk about going to meetings, going to church, going on a date, golfing, pool, workout, lounging, whatever the situation is, you'll look good and you'll feel good because of those versatilities. So what I want to encourage you to do today is go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Enter that promo code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for a free Bird Dogs Hydro Flask water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off? We promise you that. Hey guys and gals, welcome back into it. Locked On Vols here on a Tuesday. Ward Wednesday coming up tomorrow. We'll have Boogie Bentley Thursday, and of course we'll get into the preview and learn all you need to know about Austin Peay on Friday before Tennessee and Austin Peay get going. Can't thank you enough for being here. Thanks so much for subscribing on Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel. We're making a push to 8K, and the off season's really slow. You guys know this, but we got to 8K like last week, and guys, we're almost at 9K. Y'all are incredible. Football season is here. It is numbers and rating seasons. I love you guys for that. Thank you so much for your support of the show. But we're an audio podcast first, so anywhere you listen to your podcast, we are available and ready to go. Before we get into a mailbag questions, and I appreciate you everydayers for sending those in each and every day. I kind of showed a little teaser of it. If you haven't seen these already, if you're on YouTube right now, I'm going to flash some photos up. These alternate uniforms, a part of the Smoky Gray series, for the next 4 years, starting last year, and I guess it was a 5 year, but now 4 years left. Tennessee's going to have a different, Smoky Gray type uniform game each year, and it's going to be for the home opener this year. It was announced on Labor Day morning at 8:30. Gotta love that from Tennessee. Shout out Vols for doing that. Sarcasm. And it's going to be for the Austin Peay game. And I'm not a huge uniform guy. You guys know this. I don't think these look magnificent by any stretch of the imagination, but I will say I think they look pretty sharp, especially from what was floating around on social media early in the summer. And these uniforms are going to pay homage to Condredge Holloway, the 51st anniversary of him becoming the first African-American quarterback to start a game in the SEC. And so it's going to be a whole lot to celebrate. It's going to be a fun day. Look at these uniforms. Joe Milton was kind of the model here for the University of Tennessee, as at some point in the last couple of weeks, he went out there and put on the jersey, and Tennessee snapped some photos. And, man, they look really good, actually. I think the orange, that's obviously, back in 04, 05 maybe, I think Tennessee wore these, and I didn't think they looked particularly good, but I think these look really sharp. It's a lot of orange there on the shoulder pads, but I think it works. And again, I think this is a lot better than what we initially saw on social media early in the summer when some of these pictures were making the rounds. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, I'm showing you some pictures. If you're listening, you guys can see these on social media as well. I'll try to tweet out some of these photos at Locked On Vols as well, and you can check them out. But some pretty good stuff. I think these look pretty sharp, and I think Tennessee is going to look really, really sharp on Saturday. A couple more photos I'll show you. Here's the pants in this one if you're watching. You got the orange stripe down the side. That looks pretty good, and that's, again, kind of a full body look there. Here's up close of what the uniform looks like, and we'll call it a day there. So Tennessee to do Smoky Grays here for the home opener against Austin Peay, paying tribute to Condredge Holloway, first black quarterback to start a game in the SEC. Of course, that happened in 1972, 51-year anniversary. So that's going to be really, really cool. All right, let's get into your YouTube questions, shall we? Your mailbag questions, not just on YouTube, but we'll start with the YouTube questions. Ken says, hey, why not try D. Williams out at wide receiver? It's a good question because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. And a lot of times we know the answer. Like I know D. Williams is not going to play wide receiver or anything in this offense, at least right now. But sometimes you just got to ask Josh Heupel. That's what Austin Price did on Monday, asking about D. Williams and could we see him on offense potentially?
D is special with the ball in his hands, but he's going to continue to work at the corner spot and obviously be heavily active in our return game. Thought he did a really nice job throughout the course of the day. I thought the way that he responded after something not going his way showed maturity and actually pointed that out to the team after the ball game and did that again today. The kickoff.
So, yeah, that's some stuff there from Josh Heupel. And he's right. How he responded when something didn't go his way, huge applause. I mean, 55-yard return, 31-yard return. Those were 2 punt returns after the fumble. So, job well done on D. Williams. You can only hope that you can only imagine like what he could look like with the ball in his hands and everything. But for right now, I'm not sure if that is in the cards. James wants to know, how about the injuries for Tennessee? 3 injuries that, of note from the Virginia game: Squirrel White, Tyler Barron, and Amari Thomas. Both Tyler Barron and Amari Thomas came back in and played. They're fine. Squirrel White got banged up, did not come back in, but he's fine. Josh Heupel was even asked about that on Monday, and he said it was just, the time and the point in the game and the score. Essentially, there was no reason to put him back out there, but Squirrel White is fine. Seems like Tennessee got out of that game pretty well, and not in a position to where it got some guys hurt, which is really, really good thing. We'll go to my direct message account @_Cainer. James says, y'all were talking about this on a recent VolQuest podcast about Joey Halzle would likely call some plays, but Heupel would also call plays. How does that work to the best of your knowledge? Thank you for putting that in there, to the best of your knowledge, because quite frankly, I don't exactly know. Does Halzle take a drive, then Heupel take a drive, or does it Halzle maybe start calling a drive, then Heupel chimes in a given situation? How does that work? Yeah, I don't exactly know, to be completely honest with you. I do know, I think Alex Golesh called a lot of the offense. But keep in mind, last year was the 3rd year that Golesh was the offensive coordinator for Josh Heupel. So they had a long-standing, not super long-standing, but they had enough of a rapport to where there was some trust there. Now, Joey Halzle's been with Heupel. Literally, Joey Halzle's Josh Heupel's right arm. I mean, he has been with him for 15 years. He played quarterback, when Josh Heupel was his quarterback coach at Oklahoma. He's been with him at pretty much every stop along the way. So they have a great rapport, but this is a first-time opportunity for Joey Halzle to start calling some plays. So I think the dynamic, at least right now, to start things off, it's a whole lot of Josh Heupel in terms of play calling and a little bit of Joey Halzle, maybe making suggestions, maybe getting a play here and there. But the offensive coordinator in Joey Halzle, he runs the meeting room. He puts together the game plan along with Glenn Ellerbe. Joey Halzle's working. Alex Golesh worked. And as time goes on, I think you can see Joey Halzle calling it a little bit more and Josh Heupel just chiming in when needed, right? I think that's kind of where you were with Alex Golesh last year. A lot of those plays are scripted as well. Not scripted in terms of like you can't change it or anything, but with Tennessee's tempo, you have a list of plays here like, all right, you're going to go run this. And of course you have to, kind of change in terms of down and distance and all that as well. But I think it's a lot of Heupel calling the plays right now with a sprinkle of Joey Halzle, and hopefully that can, kind of change as time goes on. We'll go over to Locked On Vols Twitter account @LockedOnVols. Check in with the messages there. Bruce says, Bruce on the loose. How about that D? The O-line looked okay. Joe did better in the second half than the first. I'm sure there's a lot to work on, but a good win. How would you like to see, what would you like to see? I can't read today, I'm sorry. What would you like to see worked on this week? Defense looked great. You said the offensive line looked okay. I thought the offensive line looked pretty good. There was a procedural penalty and a holding penalty. You don't want to have those. I thought the offensive line looked pretty daggone good, especially with Cooper Mays out. Knowing Virginia's not great, but still, it was good to see. What I want to see worked on, and we'll get into this here in a moment. Someone else has got a question on it. I think it's Jonathan. I'll hit on in the next segment. Special teams needs to be clean. It's got to be clean here this week. It's got to be clean. I want to see the offense more in sync. I don't think the receivers and Joe Milton were as in sync as possible, as best as they could. And again, it's game one. Brew McCoy even said that on Monday. It was like, hey, it was game one, you know. It's the first time you're literally going up against somebody that's not your teammates. There's no preseason in college, right? So there's no jamborees. So it's very much, you know, they can be out of sorts just a little bit. So I want to see the offense tighten it up a little bit. I want to see quarterback and receiver be more in sync. And then I want to see more guys play safety. Kind of like what I said yesterday. I want to see more guys play safety. But what I really want to see is a lot of the same. I want to see the defensive line punishing that offensive line. I want to see James Pierce getting back into the backfield. I want to see those linebackers running all over the place. I want to see a heavy dose of rotation at cornerback and star. A lot of what I want to see is what I saw on Saturday. Just I want to continue to see it. We'll continue on here. We've got Jonathan Powell who wants to know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. A narrative I've heard from the fans after the game is that they ran so much because they don't trust Overthrow Joe, their name, not mine, to accurately throw the football. I think they just chose the most vanilla way to have success in week one of an ACC game. Well, why they ran the football so much is because for the bulk of the game, especially in the first half, Virginia was putting only 6 in the box. They were saying, hey, Joe Milton, you are not going to throw it over our heads. And he still did, and Ramel Keaton dropped it. And Dante Thornton, they couldn't quite connect. So obviously they still got behind the defense a little bit. But the reason Tennessee ran it so much was because Virginia was light in the box. Only had 5-6 guys in there. If you have 6 guys in the box, that essentially says, hey, my running back just has to make you miss. My running back has to get through you. Because you got a hat on a hat every single, everywhere else. And so I think that's the reason why they ran it so much, and it was working. In terms of Joe Milton, I mean, yeah, Overthrow Joe, that's a fun nickname, Bazooka Joe, all that. But I mean, even on Saturday, you can tell Joe Milton is really putting in the effort not to overthrow. He was putting some touch on some balls. He underthrew some balls. You can tell he's been working on it. So that narrative is completely false, Jonathan. And from what you're hearing, I know that's not what you said. They ran the football so much because there was only 6 guys in the box. All right, guys, we'll move on. We got a couple more questions to get into. I know I ran a little long this segment because I wanted to show some of those uniforms, the alternate uniforms of the smoky grays that Tennessee's going to wear on Saturday. But we'll come back, answer some more of your questions right here when Locked On Vols returns. I want to tell you about our friends at FanDuel. Get ready for the NFL season. Incredible offers from FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $5. Let me try that again. Right now, new customers can bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets. That is guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. You guys know, sitting on the couch on Sundays, the Red Zone, NFL Sunday Ticket, incredible product from YouTube and YouTube TV. And if you bet $5, you're going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket with YouTube and YouTube TV. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. The app is easy to use. You can be on anything from the spreads, player props, even more. So much fun is had on FanDuel Sportsbook, betting on college football and the National Football League. So I encourage you to visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, its official partner of the NFL. Couple more minutes here on this edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here. It's football time in Tennessee, the best time of the year, and couldn't do this podcast without you guys, the show without you guys. Literally, I say it every single day, but I literally couldn't do it without you. Because of you guys, we get an everyday podcast talking Tennessee football. It's pretty sweet, right? Let's get back into some of your questions. Got a couple more here before we call it quits. Kurt says, did the Florida-Utah game change your opinion on how on how that Florida game will go for the Vols in 2 weeks? Seems more likely / necessary for UT to make a statement in the Swamp. I agree with you. Now, let me be careful in how I word this. I don't think Florida is as bad as everybody's making them out to be after that Utah game. What I mean by that is Florida shot itself in the foot so many different times. Jumping or false starts on 3rd and 4th downs. What are you doing? Multiple times that happened. The 2 number 3s out there on special teams. Like, what are you doing? Billy Napier, how about not having 2 offensive line coaches and actually hiring a special teams coordinator so that doesn't happen? Graham Mertz, I do not think is good. I know a lot of his stats are padded because they were playing from behind. I think he completed 70% of his passes, threw for over 300 yards. So a lot of that was because they were playing from behind. Now, I think Tennessee can blow the brakes off Florida. I do. I personally do. But it's going to be in the swamp, place you haven't won since 2003. None of that has to do with this year, but I'm just saying trends, right? We as sports friends, pay attention to the trends and everything in history. To answer your question, no, it doesn't really change my opinion on Florida because I know Florida has good players. I just don't think as a team they're going to be very good this year. I thought Florida beat Florida against Utah. I truly did. Having said that, Utah was missing a lot of its key guys as well, and Florida still was finding ways to lose that game. So either way, regardless of the outcome, even if Florida would have won against a 3rd and 4th string quarterback on Thursday of last week, I still would have said, yes, it's absolutely a statement game. You have got to win that game. You have got to win that game, in my opinion. I mean, the world's not going to end if you lose that game, but that's a must-win game, in my opinion. I'll say it right here. Jonathan says, is there a legitimate point of concern in the kicking game? And if so, what do you think is the answer? In my opinion, no, there's not. Now, you can't do that in the swamp or you will lose. If you do what you did special teams wise in the swamp in 2 weeks, you will lose. I'll say that right now. That is, in my opinion, that is fact. You cannot kick balls out of bounds, give great field position to Florida, don't help them out. You cannot shank punts of 17 and 27 yards. That cannot happen. You can't fumble the football right back to them after an incredible punt return. Think about this, right? Tennessee literally left 14 points off the board. So it was 49-13, the final score. Tennessee could have easily been in the 60s if Ramel Keaton caught his pass and D. Williams didn't fumble it back, because where he fumbled it was like at the plus 30. Tennessee was going to punch that in anyway. So it's really incredible when you think about how many points Tennessee still left off the board despite blowing the brakes off Virginia. So anyway, back to the point of the question. I think the kicking game is going to be fine. I think... Now, that's why this week is going to be big against Austin Peay. You're at home and all that. Jackson Ross got to figure it out. I think nerves were a big point of it, and it's going to be way, way more daunting down in the swamp in 2 weeks. But I think Jackson Ross is going to figure it out. I think he's very talented, and I think Tennessee likes what they have in him. D. Williams, hey, you made a mistake. You made up for it in a big way. I think D. Williams is a baller. And I think Josh Heupel has a boot that can kick it out of the back of the end zone, on routine. So truly, I don't think that there's anything to major concern about that. That's just my opinion. Now, go out there and do it. Fix those mistakes, because if you do that in Florida, you'll lose. Let's go to Nathan. Got a couple more here. I'll kind of move fast. We're approaching the 30-minute mark. Nathan says, how many games do you think Tennessee has to win this year for them to be respected as a contender every year? I said before the season that if Tennessee won 9 games this year, I would consider Tennessee officially back and here to stay. 9 wins is not, when the college football playoff field expands to 12, then it can get you in probably. But right now with the 14 playoff, 9 wins ain't going to get you in unless you somehow win the SEC. But 9 wins means you're a good football team. 9 wins means you are a contender at points of times throughout the football season. So for this year, if Tennessee wins double digits, absolutely. But even if Tennessee wins 9 games and 9 games only, it's 9-3. I say only. Tennessee's only won 9 games one time since 2007 in the regular season, and that was last year. But if they win 9 games this year, I think Tennessee's back, and Tennessee should be considered a contender every single year. Go Vols 1995 says, our D-line looked amazing, but is our D-line really good, or was Virginia's O-line just that bad, or is it a little bit of both? I want to know, because I watched Rattler running for his life all night against UNC and would love to recreate that for our game against them. You and me both. I think the defensive line is a strong point for this football team. I love the depth and I love the options. Nobody's Superman, but Tennessee is a good unit, I believe. And also, I do believe Virginia's offensive line is bad. So the answer, a little bit of both. South Carolina's got to figure some things out, because Spencer Rattler will not make it through the season if they can't block for him. So I would like Tennessee's chances up front against that offensive line against South Carolina right now, for sure. Let's go to Rick. What is Elijah Simmons' actual injury? It's lower body. It is lower body. I think it's a knee situation. I could be mistaken, but I know it's lower body. And then finally, we'll go to Aaron. When Tennessee wins the SEC East this year, do you think that'll be enough to win? Okay, you left out a couple words here. When Tennessee wins the SEC East this year, do you think that'll be enough to win Joe Milton the Heisman? If not, what will it take? If Tennessee were to win the SEC East, that means Tennessee is to play in Atlanta for an SEC championship. That means Tennessee is in the college football playoff conversation. For all of that to happen, Joe Milton has to be elite. Not saying that Tennessee's good enough to get there without Joe Milton, but I mean, we know quarterback is everything in this offense, right? You've got to be able to process information at a fast clip, make the right decisions, and have the ability to get the football out. And Joe Milton has that. So if Tennessee were to be playing in Atlanta this year for an SEC championship, if Tennessee were to win the East in the last year of division in the SEC, then I absolutely believe Joe Milton would be a Heisman finalist. I do. Hendon Hooker was very close last year, but I think the injury and the loss to South Carolina knocked him out, literally and figuratively. I think that's what it is. He still should have been there. The fact that Stetson Bennett was there is just embarrassing for college football. Again, Stetson Bennett's a legend for Georgia. Stetson Bennett is a great story in college football. Stetson Bennett's a good football player. He had no business being a Heisman finalist over Hendon Hooker or some other deserving candidates, that's for sure. But I think if Tennessee were to play for an SEC championship, that means Joe Milton's elite, and that means Joe Milton is in New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation. All right, great stuff there, guys. Appreciate you everydayers for sending in those questions, comments, concerns. Every single Tuesday when you take over the show, it's a mailbag edition of Locked On Vols. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll be back tomorrow stronger than ever. A little Award Wednesday, Pro Football Focus. What did they have to say about the grades for Tennessee? Snap counts. We'll officially close the book on Virginia and look ahead to Austin Peay. Thanks so much for subscribing and watching to us here on Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel. And, of course, listening wherever you get your podcasts. Until tomorrow, you guys have a safe and a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody.